Yesterday was a complete wipeout for Republicans. Virginia's governorship flipped to Democrats. New Jersey stayed blue in a landslide. There were down-ballot losses in Pennsylvania and Georgia, and let's not even talk about New York City. And I warned that this would happen. Since the day after Trump's 2024 victory, I've been saying that the only way Republicans will win in off-year elections is if Trump's economic policies are at the top of the ticket. That's why I ran for and won a leadership position in the Michigan Republican Party. But that didn't happen yesterday. Republicans campaigned on crime and anti-woke policies, while voters told pollsters that their number one concern was the economy, jobs, and the cost of living. They should have been doing what Trump said just a few minutes ago, speaking to Republican senators in the Oval Office.
We're creating jobs at levels that nobody's ever seen before. All these things are good. We have to be able to get the word out. If we don't get the word out, we'll make it a very big mistake.
But instead of getting the word out, as Trump said, and trumpeting it out to blue-collar workers and young people, that Trump is leading an economic revolution on the scale of the American Revolution, the MAGA base was primarily fixated on how batshit crazy the Democrats are. Not that they aren't. This is Susan Kuiña, and I've been battling the policies of the British imperial elite for years. I've been fighting to revive the American system policies of Hamilton, Lincoln, McKinley, which is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. In my position as coalition's vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party, I've been hammering away at the point that the Republican Party must embrace Donald Trump's new Republican Party of workers and producers. So if you're tired of the other channels and the pundits who told you that everything was going to be fine, I want you to help us get this message out far and wide by hitting the like and share buttons. So today I'm going to show you why yesterday's Republican losses prove my warning. When you don't put Trump's economic policies at the top of the ticket, you lose. Number two, what Trump's actual revolution looks like, that it's a war for economic independence that Republicans fail to campaign on. And three, how the modern-day British Empire is trying to stop the reemergence of Trump's American system. Trump won in 2024 because he swung over blue-collar workers and young people of all races to his commitment to make the United States a manufacturing superpower, to recreate the working and middle class, where one income could raise a family. And he's doing it. But are Republican candidates talking about it? No. But that's what voters wanted, as many, many headlines said. Exit polls yesterday in New Jersey and New York showed 60% of voters think the economy's in bad shape. And there's no doubt that families are still hurting over the legacy of 40-plus years of globalization, free trade, and other imperial policies. But those are the policies that Trump is reversing. But not enough Americans understand that because not enough Republicans are talking about it. Here's what they should be talking about. Look at Trump's just concluded Asian deals on shipbuilding, defense, and energy. There will be tremendous impacts on manufacturing and commerce for states like, for example, New Jersey and Virginia, which have major port cities. Virginia and New Jersey Republicans didn't campaign on the $5 billion Hyundai shipbuilding investment in American ports that will create good-paying union jobs. Or take this example from a recent White House fact sheet that says that the LS Group pledged to invest $3 billion by 2030 in U.S. power grid infrastructure, undersea cables, power equipment, winding wires, and that their U.S. subsidiary is building a $681 million manufacturing facility in Virginia. Did Republicans campaign on those things? No. Republicans campaigned on immigration and crime and wokeness. Important issues? Sure. But when voters' number one concern is putting food on the table and paying rent, you better have an economic message. Democrats did. They messaged relentlessly on economic hardship, and they blamed the Republicans. Now, here's what people should have been paying attention to. What Donald Trump said during his extended CBS interview on Sunday night, 2 days before this electoral disaster.
If I didn't have the power of tariff, we would be like a subject nation. We'd be subject to everyone else. Everybody uses tariffs on us. If I wasn't allowed to use tariffs on them, we'd be a third world nation.
Pay very close to Trump's words. We would be like a subject nation. Well, we have been a subject nation, subject to a modern-day British imperial system, which has hollowed out our economy and turned us into a bunch of Uber drivers and coders. And Trump is changing that. That's the economic revolution Trump is creating. And Republicans just lost because either they don't understand what Trump is doing, or in too many cases, oppose it. Now, what does it mean to be a subject nation in the 21st century? It means you're at the mercy of other countries or supranational institutions for your critical supply chains. It means foreign powers control your energy supply, your manufacturing base, your economic future. It means independent central banks and global financiers control capital flows. You are not politically sovereign if you're economically dependent. This is the British imperial model that's dominated the world for centuries. They don't need colonies anymore when they can control you through finance and trade. And Trump is systematically breaking those chains. Start with rare earth minerals. We've been a subject nation in this critical sector, but Trump is changing that. His Asia trip and the previous Australia agreement consolidated rare earth deals with numerous countries and negotiated a one-year agreement with China where they will not impose an embargo. That gives Trump and other countries the head start on setting up alternate lines of production, as he said on CBS.
You talked about those rare earth minerals. Of course, my understanding is about 90% of them come from China. That's
right
their,
now.
Yeah.
But within a short period of time, we'll have everything we need for ourselves. You know, we've instituted an emergency program, and we will have, within a year from now to a year and a half, we'll have everything we need, no matter what kind of a threat is made.
How? How do we do that?
Because we've taken over. First of all, you saw the partnerships we've established with Japan, with Australia, with UK, with just about everybody, frankly, and we're all doing it together. You know, this wasn't a threat against the United States. This was really a threat against the world. So the whole world has come together, I think, at our behest. And rare earths, within 2 years, rare earths will really cease to be a problem.
This is just one very big example of how Trump is freeing the United States, and for that matter, the world, from an imperial-type system where globalist rules, in this case free trade, strip away a nation's economic independence. But there's another aspect which is flying below most people's radar screens, and where it gets really revolutionary. And this is where the global financier elite are absolutely terrified. Donald Trump is setting up channels of investment outside the control of the Federal Reserve and the other lords of money centered in the City of London. The way he's negotiating these international deals, he's creating long-term lines of credit from countries like Japan and South Korea, who will fund major industrial development over the next decade. So people who want to build and build big won't be at the mercy of the Wall Street model with its quarterly profit obsession or the annual appropriation whims of a dysfunctional Congress. We haven't seen that kind of financing since the World War II mobilization. Look at what South Korea just committed, $20 billion per year over the next 10 years in American investment in nuclear power, shipbuilding, and other manufacturing areas. They're investing $5 billion in the Philadelphia shipyard, which is right next door to New Jersey, where probably a lot of New Jersey voters could get a job. Hyundai and Cerberus are investing another $5 billion in additional shipbuilding capacity, which will impact both New Jersey and Virginia. Memo to Republicans. Remember this. Here's where it gets even more interesting. J.P. Morgan Chase wants to get in on the bandwagon. In October, they announced a 10-year, $1.5 trillion investment initiative in U.S. supply chains, critical minerals, grid resilience, advanced manufacturing, and aerospace. Compare that to the previous 10 years where they invested about 1/3 of that, and most of it in sustainability, namely green crap. Even this bastion of Wall Street and British imperial financing methods has figured out that Trump is indeed reshaping the world and the U.S. This is what makes the British establishment panic. Trump is creating an American system of credit for productive development. Exactly what Hamilton designed, what Lincoln used to build the Transcontinental Railroad, what Roosevelt deployed to win World War II. And it's what the British Empire has tried to destroy for 250 years. Because when nations control their own credit for productive purposes, they're no longer subject nations. Promethean Action has been in the forefront of reintroducing these American system ideas into the political and economic dialogue in the United States. And if you want to prevent what happened yesterday from happening again in 2026, you should subscribe to our newsletter and get active with us. But this isn't just about economics. This is about sovereignty. When you control your supply chains, when you produce your own energy, when you control your credit, you're not a subject anymore. You're sovereign. And here's what makes this truly revolutionary. Every one of these projects requires skilled workers, not college graduates with useless degrees and crushing debt, not marijuana chefs or Starbucks baristas, but skilled tradespeople who can weld, who can operate advanced machinery, who can build nuclear reactors and LNG carriers. Trump recently signed an executive order to foster the creation of 1 million skilled trade jobs in the United States. When he was in the Oval Office earlier this year for the U.S. Steel deal, he said he would like to divert money from British outposts like Harvard.
I'd like to see the money go to trade schools, where people learn how to fix motors and engines, where people learn how to build rocket ships.
Yet, even with these unprecedented amounts of industrial financing on its way to the United States and the promise of millions of good-paying jobs, here's how the British press covered it. Here's how the British press covers the situation in the United States. Because they want you, and especially young men, to stay pessimistic. Why? Because that's how they control populations. Some months ago, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made a very insightful comment in an interview.
The Democrats had this strategy called compensate the loser. So first of all, the name of that strategy, I don't think the bottom 50% of Americans are losers. I think the system hasn't worked for them. I think that they are winners. It's just a bad system.
Remember that phrase, compensate the losers. That's how the empire wants to control. On the Democratic side, they'll provide you with the minimum to stay alive, SNAP benefits and Obamacare. On the other side, if you're an angry young white conservative man, then you're told you've been victimized by the globalist system, which is run by the Jews, and that's who you should be angry at. But this is all a lie. The enemy is the modern-day British Empire, which Trump is committed to bringing down. And his economic revolution offers young people exactly what their grandfathers had, the ability to graduate from a trade school debt-free and immediately start working on a $5 billion shipbuilding project starting at $80,000 a year with full benefits. So when Trump says we'd be a subject nation without the power of tariffs, he's describing economic revolution that Republicans just failed to campaign on. We're talking about $17 to $20 trillion coming into the United States, outside of the control of the Federal Reserve and the City of London, and with it, millions of skilled trade jobs, rebuilding American sovereignty from the ground up. That's what's going to win elections. I warned people, put Trump's economic policies at the top of the ticket or lose. They didn't listen, and yesterday they lost. Here's what needs to happen before 2026. Every Republican candidate needs to campaign on Trump's economic revolution. Not immigration alone, not wokeness alone, not crime alone. Economics first. Supply chain independence, skilled trade jobs, breaking free from being a subject nation, challenging British financial control. Because if they don't, yesterday's wipeout will look like a preview of 2026, and we all know the consequences, and Trump said it this morning in his breakfast with Republican senators. So share this video with every Republican candidate and party official and activist that you know. Show them what they should have been campaigning on. Show them why they lost. And if you want to help us spread this message and be part of finishing the American Revolution, join us at Promethean Action. Paying memberships and contributions will give us the resources we need to build the movement that understands what Trump is actually doing and how to make it permanent.